Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for joining us today from Solid Power. We're excited to have you. Solid Power is a dynamic power solutions company. We have a buy rating on the stock. Our research is available upon request. And Kevin, thanks for spending the time to chat with us today about the company's future.
No, thanks, Brian. Great to be here.
Excellent. So you have a unique business model in terms of you endeavoring to wholesale the electrolyte. It's very compelling. It's interesting. Not a lot of people are doing it. Why do you think that that's the right model for growth going forward?
Yeah, great question to lead with here, Brian. So, we do see ourselves as very unique, and we think that model gives us some pretty distinct advantages here to play in the industry. And so we really see ourselves less as a battery developer and more as a battery technology company. We're developing a couple key technologies that will go into the next generation of batteries. One of those materials, and it'll probably be our primary revenue source, is our proprietary electrolyte powder. And that powder is what replaces all the liquids or gels in these batteries. And so we see ourselves as a materials provider to the battery industry. But we also develop a lot of really good cell technology and cell designs. And our team has done a fantastic job of producing those designs. And we have the ability to license those designs to anybody who would like to provide them. So in a nutshell, we see ourselves as a materials provider, but also somebody who's developing and research and developing our technology of these cell designs and can provide it to any battery producer that's out there. Battery production is hard, and that's one of the reasons that we think our model is superior. Making batteries is competitive. There's a lot of large incumbents in the business, tough margins, and most of all, it requires a tremendous amount of capital. And so being the material supplier and a licensor of the cell designs enables us to address a larger market, focus on our strengths, but probably most importantly, that capital light business model allows us to avoid somewhere probably between $1 and $3 billion of gigafactory investment that our peers have to make.
Yeah, and I think that that's an important point. Certainly, as capital is becoming more difficult to obtain in the space, that you have an ability to grow, without developing massive scaled manufacturing for battery cell technology. As you're looking at solid electrolyte, how do you see the adoption curve moving forward? I know you're having some initial conversations with potential clients and existing clients, but how long do you think it'll take for, call it mainstream battery producers to adopt a solid electrolyte?
Yeah, we see really two adoption curves for our electrolyte, and because there's really two sources of demand for electrolyte. One is directly from our OEM battery partners, and we're currently in development with Ford and BMW and SK to develop batteries. We're doing it jointly, and those are with our battery designs. And as we look at that timeline, we see commercialization of those batteries happening in the late 20s, probably a 26, 27, 28 type of timeline. And as those partners begin to build our cells and put them into vehicles, that ramps up the demand for our electrolyte. Okay. The second source is really demand that we can sell independently of our current OEM partners. And so we've been working with virtually every battery producer out there to sample our electrolyte. And we believe that most of the auto OEMs and the tier one battery producers have sulfide-based solid state somewhere in their roadmap. And so what that means is effectively we can provide our electrolyte directly to other battery producers that we're not working down an EV path on. And that has the potential not just to, again, establish us as a leading provider of electrolyte, but it has a timeline. It has the potential to accelerate our timeline up from that late 20s timeline that we're working on with our OEM partners.
Yeah, very good. Very good. You mentioned relationships with your OEM partners. Certainly BMW is a best in class automotive manufacturer, and many automotive manufacturers, including BMW, have invested heavily in lithium technology. What does your relationship with those OEMs tell you about the desire to transition to a solid state battery type of production?
Yep. And again, we have three fantastic partners right now. We're partners with Ford, we're partners with BMW, and we're partners with SK On, the battery producer. And so from all three of these partners, we've seen a very strong interest in solid state batteries. And through all the turmoil right now in the battery industry and EV softening, we still see a very strong commitment towards our solid state technology. And we believe that's because current battery technology doesn't quite get to the level, at least our opinion, of it doesn't get to the level it needs to put an EV in every garage in America, right? The range doesn't matter up, the battery life and the cost. It's just not a great proposition. We think we need to take a step up. And so with our partners, again, who are very committed to this solid state technology, we work very collaboratively. We get valued insight from them and feedback on a weekly basis. And from Ford and BMW, that feedback comes in, hey, this is how we're going to use it in a pack design. This is how our modules are going to fit together. And from SK, we get feedback on this is how you guys want to design things to build these cells at scale and manufacture them on a larger platform. And so even if you take with BMW that we expanded at JDA, they have a team that has worked side by side here in Colorado with us for over a year now. And that was instrumental in helping us drive the quality of our A-sample cells and officially enter A-sample here that we did a few weeks ago. But it is very much a daily joint production of the cell where we're trying to make those EV cells, just improve them every day a little bit and get through the automotive qualification process. And ultimately with BMW, where we hope that leads is to where, the cells we've developed right now, they're putting into a demo car that has already been built. They're integrating it, and we're hoping that these A1 cells that we've just delivered here over the past couple months are placed into modules and packs and put into the car that leads to a full-size BMW demonstrating our solid state technology sometime in 2024.
Yeah, that's certainly really exciting news for BMW, particularly as it could come as soon as next year, which we're sitting right on the cusp of. I guess to that point, what makes your technology unique? When you're thinking about your competitors or the industry more broadly.
Yep. There are a lot of companies out there who are pursuing solid state technology. However, we think that we're one of the few out there that are pursuing it with zero liquid and zero gel. Okay. A liquid or gel inside the battery, if your electrolyte is liquid or gel, that allows the ions to flow more easily than if it's a true solid. However, the stuff that goes into that liquid or gel can ultimately become an ignition source. And if that liquid or gel gets exposed to oxygen, it can cause a thermal runaway, which is a very nice word for fire or explosion. And so, again, we're one of the few we would call it a pure solid state technology, removing all the liquids, all the gels. And as a result of that, I think we get the true safety benefit of that technology, and that allow us to eliminate very costly pack systems and very expensive cooling systems that you need around the battery because you have that liquid or gel inherent in your technology. And so that's why we're pursuing the true solid state battery, no liquids and no gels.
Yeah, and I think that also very nicely summed up the advantages of your technology over current lithium ion. I guess as we move forward and your electrolyte production line is ramping up and starting to run, can you share the early feedback that you've gotten from some key stakeholders about your powder as it's being tested?
Yep. We've sampled now to a couple large battery producers, some OEMs and some just pure battery producers. And we're excited about the feedback that we've gotten. And right now we're going through the agreement process to line up several more samples here in the near future. Brian, the initial feedback has been good. I think customers see the potential benefits. They see the quality of the electrolyte that we're producing, and they see our ability to scale coming from our SP2 plant that we started production in April. And you know, OEMs want to know that you can provide a large scale production of this material. That's the benefit to them through the sampling process. And then lastly, we've gotten some pretty good feedback on cost. And so it's early right now, but what we're hearing back from our customers is exactly what we hoped. And ideally that will lead again to some direct electrolyte contracts here down the road as we work through this sampling process.
Yeah, no, that's positive news. And speaking of positive news, you recently announced that you're entering into the Southeast Asian market, particularly in Korea. Why is that so important to the long-term outlook for the company?
Yeah, great question. Southeast Asia, particularly Korea, is key to our commercialization path. We're right now building what we hope will become a strong presence there, and predominantly to get greater access to customers. There are world-class battery producers there, including our partner SK, also some fantastic OEM partners with significant battery and technology experience. There are world-class suppliers there that we think we would benefit from relations with. And then lastly, there is just top-notch battery talent and infrastructure in Korea. Our leadership team spent time there over the past several months looking at what are our best options to enter Korea and establish that presence. And right now we're going through where we're narrowing down the options. We've gotten great feedback again from potential customers, suppliers, partners. And so far we've established a legal subsidiary, we've opened a small office there, and we've greatly increased our collaboration with Korean national labs and universities. And so we're pretty excited about what we're working on and the path that we're leaning towards. Can't share too much more than that, but we look forward to sharing more when we can.
Well, we're excited to hear more as it becomes publicly available. You listed a whole slew of, well, really three key tenets for your future growth, right? Management's key focus. And among them were investor relations and investor outreach. What do you think investors are underappreciating about your company?
Yeah, good question. Our business model really offers the multiple shots on goal. Clearly, we believe we have a strong cell architecture. We believe our R&D team is coming up with designs that are going to be successful and go into EVs. However, and especially the CFO, we're kind of agnostic as to whether our electrolyte is sold and eventually goes on our cell designs, or whether we partner and sample with a battery producer that uses that electrolyte in their own cell designs. And if one of our partners takes it and takes our electrolyte and comes up with their own design and it works better than ours, that's great. And I think few people understand that we sort of have that multiple shots on goal. Our own cells can drive the electrolyte demand, but it could also come from somebody that we partner with, and this sampling process that we're going through right now could lead to an early commercialization as some of these other key battery producers can come up with designs that are as good or better than ours. And I think we're well positioned here again with SP2 opening in April. We're now very close to hitting our target for the year, which was a 30 metric ton run rate. And that'll meet our needs for automotive qualification, but we have the ability to ramp up for any type of outside or third party, a new electrolyte contract outside of our OEM relationships and our OEM partners. And so we're pretty excited, but I don't think investors, I think we've talked a lot about the capital light business model. I think investors are starting to really see that, but I think it's this sort of multiple shots on goals where the electrolyte or our electrolyte revenues can come from sources outside of our OEM partners.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that that's something that's underappreciated in the shares. I guess just building on that, what do you think is the long-term roadmap for the company? How do you see that as management?
Yep. Our first cells are silicon based, and we get asked a lot why silicon, and we just saw the advances in silicon is really driving manufacturability and allowing us to get to commercialization sooner. And so the first generation of A sample cells here that we've been developing to BMW have a silicon anode base to them. But our second generation and third generations we're also very excited about, and we've made good progress here, shifting from the silicon in development to a lithium metal cell. And so that would kind of be a second generation product. And that would have a higher energy density. It's a little bit more challenging from a technology point of view, but the lithium metal would have a higher output. And we see that as kind of a second generation. And then as a third generation, something we're working on with the Department of Defense and IARPA right now under a government contract is what we call our nickel-free, cobalt-free battery. And that has the potential to replace the NMC cathode. And that can be a real game changer in terms of supply chain. Because if you're able to replace the nickel and the cobalt with more earth abundant materials, that really changes the supply chain and the cost of batteries. And so we're grateful for the DOE here for their program and support of that. And then on the electrolyte side, something we haven't highlighted too much, our first generation of powder, again, has been solid, and we're getting good feedback from our customers and the initial samples that we put out there. However, we're currently investing in a brand new R&D lab where we're focused on the second generation of our powder, and that will lead to powder that has a higher energy content, also lower cost, and we're investing in some of the production techniques to allow us to really maintain continuous production. Again, we'll have a good benefit on quality and cost. And so I think, I remember when John stepped in with the company, he said one of the things that surprised him the most was that few companies at our size and stage have such a robust technology roadmap. And so we're proud of that, and we think we've got good things coming here in the future.
Excellent. Recently in your last quarter, you announced that you were in an A sample within the automotive qualification process. How does that progress? Where does the company go from here?
Yeah. So we have shipped here over the past couple months around 80 A1 sample EV cells to BMW, and that was the official kickoff of our automotive qualification process. So they're around 60 amp hours, 40 layer cells, probably about 10 by 30 centimeters in size. And they were produced using electrolyte from our SP2 facility, which is a great demonstration of that capability. These A1 cells will be followed by an A2 and an A3 sample cell, which hopefully are just incremental changes to design, and we continue to produce cells that just work a little bit better, have a higher energy content, run more cycles, et cetera. But as we cycle through those A1, A2, and A3 cells, these targets are basically designed to drive a significantly greater range for consumers, longer battery life. And then on the OEM side, it's a much safer cell and it hopefully drives down the cost for the OEMs. And so we see that combination of what really makes EVs feasible on a much larger scale basis.
Excellent. And then I guess in summation, how do you feel about the company's financial outlook as you're looking out through 2024?
Yeah, a great question. And again, one I love to answer because as CFO here, we have a very large cash balance and a very strong balance sheet. And I realize that that separates us from a lot of our peers and folks that are in the battery industry here. And so you take that large capital balance that we have, you combine it with our capital light model, and we believe we have a runway into the late 20s with our current cash. And then, with the grant funding and the financing that we're, collectively pursuing, I think it could take us out even longer. And so very, very fortunate as CFO to have a strong balance sheet.
Excellent, Kevin. Thank you for your time. We're excited to have hosted you here at our mini conference, and look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it greatly.
Thanks.